Okay, in this lettering video, we will use this awesome piece of graphic art as a reference for our 3D conversion. The creator of this one is Joseph Karoff, who's also responsible for other iconic works such as the 007 logo. And unlike my other videos, the star in this video isn't Plasticity, it isn't even Blender, but a shader we will use in Blender, which will do all the work. I have tried different versions and workflows, including sculpting, but none of these techniques are necessary, you just need this one shader. But first things first, let's first check the SVG. You can download it from the description. Here I have 4 layers, but this one, the reference one, won't be included in the SVG I will upload. It will consist of 3 parts: the dancers, the lettering, and the stairs. And we will pipe the stairs later. So that's why they remain here as strokes in the SVG. And you can start off with Blender right away or with Plasticity. I will import this SVG into Plasticity, and later in Blender I will import my 3D work via the Blender Bridge add-on. So it's up to you. You can start with Blender right away, or you can do it as I do, first starting with Plasticity. Matter of fact, I will provide you with 3 different SVGs, one consisting only of the dancers, one for the lettering, and the third one will be only the stairs. And the reason for that is we can import 3 different SVGs comfortably in Plasticity. In Blender, it's not that much of a problem because the outliner is organizable much more comfortably than in Plasticity. But in Plasticity, you don't have the opportunity to handle large amounts of items here. It's just not comfortable. I mean, I can show it to you. Import the artwork as a whole. You can see that we cannot organize comfortably, even if we try. Let's say we want to separate these stairs from the typography. We can press Ctrl G for creating its own folder. But then, when we deactivate it, we will have a hard time dragging them into their own folder and whatnot, so it's a big mess. So that's why I separated it into 3 parts so we can organize them comfortably. So I will go back a couple of steps for importing the SVGs separately so we can group them right away. So here in the top view, let's import them one by one. Ctrl-Shift-O. Here is the lettering, and before doing anything else, let's just press Ctrl G, or let's just group them and name them. We can lock this one and import the second one. Again, Ctrl-Shift-O. Here are the dancers, and they are placed automatically correct because Plasticity recognizes the artboard of Illustrator, and it's all oriented according to the artboard. So to this artboard, again, let's group them. Ctrl G, dancer. Let's lock this one also. Import the third group, which are the stairs. And I guess this one is the one with the most parts. Ctrl G, stairs. Okay, now we can unlock the other ones and see how we can proceed. And like I said, the modeling part itself won't be that dramatic. So we will basically extrude the typography, pipe the stairs, and also extrude the dancers. That's it. And then we will start with our texturing part in Blender. Okay, let's start right away by deactivating the dancer and the stairs. And in face mode, select all these faces and extrude them. Hide the curves, so the typography folder. Alt Z so we can see what we are doing. I have deactivated the X-ray. Okay, let's continue with the dancers. Again, in face mode, let's select all these guys. I want to see the solids also. I don't want the dancers to be that thick. So I will do something like this. And this time you have maybe noticed that I'm not that obsessed with avoiding unnecessary edges and whatnot with rebuilding curves, because like I said, we won't spend that much time on the modeling part or the modeling and plasticity part. And I want to keep this part short because this one is rather technical and I want to jump into the design part as fast as possible. So let's bring these guys somewhere here. If they are too thin, you can still go ahead and press SZ for making them a little bit thicker. They don't have to be that thin. We are making a 3D artwork after all, so they can have a little bit of depth. And of course, push them further back. The pipes or the stairs, they will be in front of the dancers. Let's check our reference. Yeah, we want the pipes to be in front of the dancers. So in this hierarchy, the dancers, they have to stay a little bit behind. And let's keep everything organized. So therefore press Ctrl G and name it dancer solid and lock these solids we already have created. And now comes the part with the stairs. So select one pipe just to make a test, to run a little test, and press P for pipe. This thickness looks already good. Let's nevertheless play with the section size, make 0.02 to make it even thicker, and let's see how it looks. Yeah, I guess 0.02 is okay. These pipes, they can be a little bit thicker because overall they will still be quite thin. But the little ones, these guys, they should be a little bit thinner. Oh, you know what? Let's try piping again with 0.01 and let's see if it looks okay in comparison to the original. And therefore let's hide the overlays and see what we have, and also the edges, so we can compare comfortably. No, this one can be a little bit thicker. So sorry for the back and forth, but we should be accurate. P 0.02, 0.015. Yeah, I think that's okay. That's not that thick. That looks okay in comparison to the letter. So let's do the same with these, but these guys should be thinner. So let's pipe them, and 0.01 should do the job for these ones. And we can do the same for all the other guys. So these outer pipes should have the thickness of 0.015. And the small ones, the short ones, 0.01. So you can just press P and confirm. And we won't do any fancy filleting or boolean or whatnot. We will leave it simple. Okay, let's deactivate the stairs curves folder and select all the solids and group them also and position them. So from the front view, we can bring them also further back, but they have to stay in front of the dancers, obviously. I would like to make some fine tunings if necessary. So that's okay. Let's check for any type of weird intersections. So in face mode, for instance, we can take this one, push it further back. So check for this type of weird intersections. Maybe here I will cheat a little by going to face mode. Bring this one further down so it covers this situation, this part of the letter E. Here is again a weird intersection going on. Alt Z, so we have access to this face. Okay, if we cannot get this face right away, Shift H, isolate it. In face mode, we can drag this one out like so. Alt H, top view, let's see what we have here. This one can be further, we can move further to the right. So we avoid weird intersection situations. And in face mode, obviously, we have to push this one into this large pipe. This one we can push into the letter. Here this one sticks out, but it is unnecessary anyhow, so we can delete it. Let's isolate this one, Shift H in face mode, select this guy, drag it out quite a bit and bring back the rest. So now we can see how we can make our fine tuning. That's okay. So that's basically it. We have our stairs, we have the letters, we have the dancers, all in place and all in the correct hierarchy. Now we are ready to import them in Blender. And again, we will do it one by one. So we will first import the letters. Let's open the Blender Bridge add-on. and check only visible, but before refreshing, we want to hide the stairs and the dancers in the plasticity file. So therefore, let's deactivate these two folders, and now we can import. Press refresh, and there you have it. We don't need the camera and the empty, that's my default stuff. Please ignore this. So what's important is, before doing anything else, go into face mode. You will see that our geo consists of tries, but we want these one to be angons. So therefore, let's select all these guys and go to angon and refacet, while the auto mark edges is activated. So let's see if we were successful. Now we got rid of the triangles and our artwork consists now of angons, which is exactly what we want. One more thing, in edge mode, since we have marked these sharp, these auto marked edges, select one of them, one of the blue ones. Shift G and look for sharpness, so we can select all these sharp edges. And if you press Ctrl E, you can mark seam. I have a shortcut for that. It's 9 and clear seam is 8 in my case, but we will first mark seam. We will use this later for unwrapping, and the unwrapping part won't be that dramatic, I promise. And stuff which doesn't need to be seamed, we can delete the seams from those ones. I'm using my shortcut, but again here, clear seam is the thing I'm using here for clearing the unnecessary seams. Just one seam for this whole face loop is enough. So therefore, I select all these seams. I will leave one of them, which is at the bottom of the letter. That makes more sense, because the bottom of the letter isn't that visible. So I'm time-lapsing this part. Since it's repetitive, you got the idea. I'm unseaming unnecessary parts of the face loops of each letter, and I leave only one seam, and that is the one here at the bottom. So I can start with the time-lapsing. Okay, if you have deleted the redundant seams, we can start preparing our model for the subdivision modifier. And by the way, you don't need to be that nitpicky when it comes to deleting redundant seams, because it's not the end of the world if there are too many seams or seams which are quite visible, like here in this case, because the material we are about to apply is quite forgiving. Even visible seams like here won't be that visible, so you don't have to be that accurate. Okay, before doing anything else, I would first like to bring all our parts out of the plasticity folder. I forgot to do it. That's usually the first thing I do when I import stuff from Plasticity into Blender. Take all these guys in object mode, press M and bring it to the scene collection. We can collapse these. And I don't want to join all these parts because I want to apply the material individually. But that's okay, we will group them later and parent it to an empty so it won't look that messy. Let me delete this stuff. The next thing I'd like to do is, I'm looking from the top view, but I want to look from the front, rotated along the x-axis, so press RX 90. So if you look from the front view, we can work comfortably. So what's important for me is, I want to have smooth edges or rounded edges. I want them to catch the light, and I can do it by two ways, either by using the subdivision or by using the bevel modifier. And I will use the bevel modifier for all the parts which don't have any curvature, like this one, the W, the parts of the W. And I will use the subdivision modifier for the ones with the curvature. So let's first do all the parts without the curvature. Let's start with this one, Q. If you have hard ops, you can apply the bevel modifier right away. It's very comfortable that way. And I will give it a segment of 5 and an amount of, let's say, 0.02. Can be a more, let's try 0.04. I think 0.03 will be okay. I will show it also the other way without the hard ops. So it's basically the same. In the modifiers tab, add modifier, generate bevel. You can give this guy the same values, segments 5, 0.03 I guess. the bevel modifier which was applied with hard ops and the bevel modifier which was applied manually, they don't look the same. This one is much rounder, and that's because of the profile. So if I select this one and look for profile, here the shape it's 0.5, while this one is 0.7. I prefer this one, that's too round. So that's why I will select this one and type in 0.7 so I have the same look. And now I will simply select all these parts and then select one of them which already has the bevel modifier. Let's take this one. So that's the active one with the yellow outline. Ctrl L, copy modifiers. Do the same for all these other parts which don't have a curvature. Copy modifiers, and that's it. Here is some drama going on, but we can fix it. Let's see what we have here. Just merge them here at this one. Here also, press 1 and merge. If you have machine tools, let's see if there are any other parts which look weird. And now let's take all these round parts and prepare them for the SubDiv modifier. So select all of them and press / so we can isolate them. Select all of them, go to face mode, select one face and Shift G for selecting similar, in this case coplanar. So we select all the faces which look into the same direction as the one we have selected. Hang on, here's some stuff going on. Okay, let's see if there is any other weird stuff going on. Here we don't need these. Here's some weird stuff going on again. Okay, again, select one face, Shift G, C for coplanar, and now let's inset them and make a small inset, not a big one, then we will get such overlappings. Press Escape. Again, I for inset, and make a small inset, and let's see what we have here. I think 0.015 will do the job. Okay. And before clicking away or doing anything else, get rid of the seams which were created automatically while insetting. Ctrl E, clear seam. And if you have a shortcut, of course, you can use the shortcut. So we can get rid of the unnecessary seams. And we will do the same here. On this side, select one face, Shift G, C, I for inset, 0.014. And everything looks okay. Except this one. Here is some stuff going on. So they are not on the same plane. It's not coplanar, but that's okay. Let's just press SY0 for scaling them along the y-axis, flattening them along the y-axis. And now we should be able to, still not doing the job. So let's delete this one, XF, and see what's the problem. Okay, now we are able to select this one, so they are all on the same plane. Okay, now we have tightened the front and the back part. And now I want to tighten these parts. And there are two ways I can do it. So one of them is creating a loop cut, pressing Ctrl R and then Ctrl B for tighten these parts. But if I make it this way, I have to do it for each part separately. That's why I will do it different. I will simply press K for activating the knife tool. Start cutting somewhere here outside of these parts. Activate the knife tool, pressing K, and then start cutting. And then press A for making a straight cut. And then C for cutting through all the parts, not only the visible ones. And then click again and press Enter. So that's what we have so far. Again, from the top view, Edge mode and Alt-Z for activating the X-ray. You can now select the edges we have just created and duplicating them by pressing Ctrl B, so beveling them. And now we can drag until they are near the edges, and we can do our fine tuning along the y-axis, so GY. But we aren't ready with our tightening. If we run the SubDiv modifier right away, pressing Ctrl 2, you see this part is flat, but here the edges, they are collapsing. So that's why we need to add some edge loops also here at the corners. simply by pressing Ctrl R and repeat the process for all the corners for avoiding them to collapse when running the SubDiv modifier. So now again, let's run the SubDiv, pressing Ctrl 2, and that's what we have. That's what I want to have. Smooth, rounded shape. And I will do the same for all the other parts. Again, let's run the SubDiv. And here you can see that some weird stuff is going on. I mean, here that looks okay, but we can fix it simply by creating connections here. So select both vertices and press J for join. Do the same on the other side. And here on the bottom also. Now it's fixed, and we will do the same here. And we can continue tightening stuff up. You can also run the modifier first, then tighten the edges like I am doing here in this case. Then you can see how much you should tighten. You can eyeball more comfortably, but here it's too messy, so I first tighten and then give it a SubDiv. Okay, that's what we have so far. A mixture of bevel modifier here and the SubDiv for the ones with the curvature. And that looks okay, that's what I wanted. And the next step is selecting all these guys. Go to face mode. Again, select one face. Shift G, C, coplanar for selecting all the faces in the same direction. Shift D, P, and then selection so we can separate the newly created faces from the rest of the letters. So let's select the big ones, press H for height, so that we can take all these guys and bring them out. G, Y, so let's separate them. And for whatever reason, we couldn't select this one, that's okay. Alt H, okay, here we have it. And now we can select all these guys, and in face mode or vertex mode, doesn't matter. Select all of them, press SY0 for flattening them. And we can even join them. Make sure that one is highlighted, so we can press Ctrl J, Shift S to Geo, so we can clean up this mesh. So either you work with hard ops, Q, operations, clean mesh. So you get rid of the stuff here in the middle of the inset edges and whatnot. Or you can do it manually by selecting all these faces and pressing F. And I want to convert them into curves. So in object mode, either you go in object mode, you right click and convert to curve. And then you can from here adjust the thickness. It's somewhere here, depth. Or in edit mode, press Q and curve extract. And of course shade smooth. And we can leave this one as it is for now. Just press M, create a new collection, call it curves, and hide them for a minute. And we don't need this one. Can delete it. So just to see what we are doing, I will slap on an HDRI. So therefore I go here to this world tab, press color, environment texture, open, and then you can search for an HDRI. It doesn't matter which one for now, just that we can see what we are doing in render mode. Okay, now we are in Düsseldorf, since it's Düsseldorf Bridge. And here in the render settings, under film, check transparent so we can get rid of the background. Now we are back in Blenderdorf and let's go to solid mode. And before continuing with the coloring of this guy, I think it's better to import all the other parts. So therefore I will continue with importing the dancing characters. So here in Plasticity, I disable this folder, the typo solids folder, and enable the dancers. Here in Blender, I will import the dancing guys. But before doing that, let's first do all these parts of the typography in one folder. So therefore, select all these guys and new collection. Let's call it typo. So the scene isn't that cluttered here, the collections. Let's look from the front view. Select all these guys. They are below the Z axis. Bring this guy to the top. I would like also to import a reference image. So the poster typography we had at the beginning. Therefore, Shift A, go to Image, Reference, and look for the poster. I have cropped it so that I can see only the relevant design. So we don't need the stuff, the other information which was on the poster. So we don't need the actual poster, just this design. And let's place it somewhere here and go to Alt Z. So X-ray mode. So we can place the design according to our already existing typography. SS. And I will take one reference point. I will place the design like so. Then I will change the location of the 3D cursor by pressing Shift and right click at this location where the 3D already existing typography meets the corner of the design. Now I can comfortably scale the design. But first, let's change the pivot point to 3D cursor. So from medium point to 3D cursor and press S twice. Now we can do this thing. And here you can see, for whatever reason, our typography doesn't match with the height of the original design. So let's fix this. And therefore I will lock the empty. So here, look for this icon, which stands for selectable. Now we can turn it off. So we lock this and we can comfortably scale the typography according to the original design. And if you want to change the transparency of the original design, no problem. Just unlock it, select it. And here in this properties, you can change the opacity. So let's make something like 0.2, which is much more comfortable for the eye. And now we can start, after locking, we can start doing our tweakings here. Let's see if we can get away with scaling along the Z-axis right away with this 3D cursor here at this same location here. So let's press SZ. Scale along the Z-axis and works. Now let's take these letters from the second line, G, Z, bring them to the top. Change again the location of the 3D cursor by pressing Shift, right click, and bring it to here. And now we can again scale the letters of the second line, SZ. I think that's okay. And we will do the same with the letters of the third line. Okay, now everything is in place. Now all these letters are skewed in object mode, so you can see that the scale isn't proportionally. So let's select all these letters and simply press Ctrl A and apply the scale. So if you select the parts separately, you can see that the scale is applied to all the parts. And we can continue with the next step, which is importing the dancing couple. But I will not use these solids. Instead, I will create clean solids, solids which don't have these edges. So I can bevel without having any trouble. But I will leave these solids as guides. Activate the Dancer Curves folder, which we have created previously. And you know, we have created these solids out of these curves. It gave us this result. But like I said, I want to clean up this stuff so that we don't have these unnecessary edges. Like I said, I repeat myself, but this step is important. And I do this step in Plasticity because I don't want to use the bevel modifier in Blender. Instead, I want to use the solids which we will create right now, right away in Blender without making any modifications or without applying any modifiers. And the reason for that is I want to show you different workflows, how we can go back and forth between Plasticity and Blender. Let's take this guy, let's look from the top view. And if we go to control point mode and go to the command menu, pressing F and look for rebuild, we can use different methods. I will go with the point method, and with 10 points it gives us such a result. We have to crank it up to, let's say, 100. 100 is still not precise. Let's go with 500. 500 looks better, but let's check. Here are still some edges I don't like, so let's crank it up to 700, let's say, or even 1000. 700 is okay, I think. Let's check for the other parts. That looks okay. And let me show you what I mean with clean, solid. If I go to face mode and extrude, you can see the difference. That looks much cleaner. But before doing so, let's go to top view and adjust the control points. But we don't have to be that nitpicky because we will see it from that distance most of the time. So don't get lost in details. Maybe here. Of course, the original drawing has sharp corners, but we can't fillet sharp corners without any problems. And there's one thing which we always have to keep in mind when we convert 2D shapes into 3D. The 3D world follows much more the laws of the actual world we are living in. And in the real world, there aren't any sharp corners. So that's why filleting or beveling, call it what you want, is crucial. You can't fill it with 100% sharp corners like this. It will give you problems. So don't get caught up in that detail. There has to be some roundings. By the way, I did these two curves off the record with F, rebuild, and I gave them a value of 50. And let's rebuild this one also. And let's try something like 30 or even 40. 40 looks okay. And you can fine tune if that makes you happy. But I don't want to waste your time playing around with these small details nobody will notice. So now we can take all these four shapes, so the main shape, the feet, and this hand in face mode and extrude. And if you select the curve in face mode in Plasticity, the extrude command pops up automatically. And now we can extrude, and here you can see the difference between these two. The solid we are about to create, let's give it a thickness of 0.08. That's okay, I think. And let's select these solids and isolate them, Shift H. Now we can select this face and press Ctrl 2. It selects automatically the edges of the selected face. So if you press Ctrl 2, you have automatically this selection and you are ready to fillet. So let's try our fillet. And before pressing OK, let's just check how it looks. I think 007 is okay, 0.007. Because I have to take into account this situation here. If I go further, that won't look good. So let's give it a round number, 0.007. And let's do the same for the other parts. So these three parts, the feet and the hand, select them in face mode, the top faces, then press Ctrl 2 and give it a fillet, 0.007. The other parts have the same fillet as this one, as the main part, the main body. And that's what we have so far. That looks okay. And let's do the same with the lady. Alt H, bring back the rest. Let's look from the top view and select in control point mode, rebuild. And by the way, let me show you one more thing concerning the rebuild stuff. The rebuild, as I showed, gives you a much cleaner result without any unnecessary edges which cause drama when you try filleting. The second thing which the rebuild with the points method does, it merges the curve. Let me show you what I mean. Here, this curve it looks as if it is one part, but it isn't. It's just grouped, so to say. Joining doesn't merge. It just groups. If I press Alt J, look what happens here in the outliner. Boom. We have now unjoined it, so ungrouped it, so to say. And here you can see of how many curves this single curve consists. It isn't one single object. So I undo it, Control Z, that it is grouped or joined, but not merged yet. That's what we will do now. So if I, again, look for rebuild in the menu command, pressing F, rebuild, points method, that's important. Points method is merging the multiple curves into one object, not the refit one. Select the points method, look from the top view, and let's give it a reasonable amount of points. Let's try 300. 300 looks okay. Right away I will go with 300. And I will do the same here in control point mode, the lower body. And I will do the same for the head. Let's try 200 for this one. That looks okay. And now we can simply go to face mode and make the same extrusion we have done for the male dancer. I guess we had something like 0.08. Yeah, that was the distance. Now we can hide the dancer folder, and we don't need these solids we made previously. We can delete them. Fillet the lady. So select these three faces, press Ctrl 2, B, D for filleting right away. That's too much, face range of blend, blah blah, it's too large, this fillet. So let's give it the same value we gave for the male dancer, so 0.007, and this works. Press OK. Maybe I will even make both characters a little bit thinner. And I will do the same filleting for the bottom side also. And that's it. Now we have our filleted characters ready to be imported into Blender. So let's do this right away. Okay, here in Blender, I did some experiments off the record with the characters which weren't filleted in Plasticity. I gave them bevel modifiers, but then I had to do a lot of cleanup work. And I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want you to do it. That's why I changed my mind and said that it is more convenient to make this filleting in Plasticity and import the already beveled or filleted characters. Call it what you want. Import these guys, so only the visible ones. Press refresh. And here they are. And here in Blender we can group them, we can join them, so the scene isn't that cluttered. So any further editing or modeling in Blender isn't necessary. We just need to position them according to the design. So therefore, let's first join them. Select all four parts of the male character. Ctrl J. Do the same for the female. Ctrl J. Shift S to geometry. Here also Shift S to geometry. Let's select both of them. Let's look from the front view. RX90. Let's bring these guys to the correct position. Again, we have to scale them along the Z-axis. Okay, let's apply the scale. Ctrl A here also. And let's bring them out of this plasticity folder structure. Select both of them, press M to scene collection. And now again, M, create a new collection. We can call them dancer. From the top view, we can position them. So if we look from the right view, they should be further on the right side in relation to the typography, so that we have enough room for the stairs, which we can import now. Here in Plasticity, select all these guys and put them into the Dancer Solids folder and deactivate it. And now Stairs Solids. Again, let's go to the Plasticity Blender Bridge add-on and press refresh. And here they are. All the parts belonging to the stairs. Let's select all of them. From the front view, RX90. And again, we have to scale along the Z-axis. Let's select one of them, highlight them, and press Ctrl J so everything is connected within this part. Again, let's look from the front view. That looks okay. Alt Z for activating the X-ray. Let's bring these guys further back. G, Y, somewhere here. Shift S to geometry. M, bring them out of the plasticity folder. Since this is a single part, it doesn't need to be in a separate folder. So we can just rename it, press F2, call it stairs. There is another thing you have to consider when you convert 2D art into 3D. In 3D, you don't have the freedom to make things which doesn't make sense. In this case, both characters are flying. They are floating. But if you want to make stuff which is credible, you have to make some tweaks. So in this case, I will give the characters some kind of pipes which are connected to the back part. Individual parts, the bigger ones, they can have a few pipes, and the small parts, they have to have their own pipes which are mounted on the wall. And the same goes for the letters and the stairs. Okay, let's hide the empty and think about some kind of constructions which we can plug into all the separate parts. The stairs, they don't need to have some kind of connections to a wall because they are going into the letters, which is okay. You can just create a plane, go to face mode, extrude it. First of all, the 3D cursor to origin, and then the newly created point to the same place. So go to cursor offset. And now I can think about a solution. So SX makes something like this. And here I will create a cylinder. S Shift Z, so I can scale along the Y and X axes, but exclude the Z axis. Let's look from the left view. G, Z, face mode. Let's delete this face. X, F, Alt Z, so we have access to this face. Let's look from the left. Here go again to medium point, and here go to edge snap. So G, Z, and let's press Ctrl so it snaps to this edge. And we can delete this face pressing X, F. Let's select 8 edges and connect them to here, pressing F. We can do the same for the other side, pressing Alt X. Boom. You can do it with the mirror modifier. Apply it and delete these redundant edges. In edge mode, Alt, select this edge loop, F, here also, F. Now we can shade smooth. And now we can simply, in edit mode, duplicate this construction thing. So let's look from the back. I will time-lapse this part. Okay, that's what I wanted, something like this. So stuff which makes sense if we mount it onto a wall. And I need similar parts for the characters. And now we can make this one smaller from the back view. So if you have a situation like this, simply tweak until it fits. And mount it on the characters. So something like this. And now for selecting all these faces, you don't need to do it one by one. You can do the same we did for the letters. Just select one face and press Shift G and C for coplanar. Let's look from the right view and drag along the Y-axis, pressing Ctrl so it snaps to one of these pipes. All the pipes have the same length. Let's apply the scale, Ctrl A, scale. And here also, let's apply the scale and the rotation. Here also the rotation, I forgot. Okay, there are a couple of things which are missing before we can start to texture our artwork. So let's see what we have so far. We had these curves, which were the outline of the typography. So let's see. From the front view, I've played around with the position of the whole artwork. So chances are that you also have to adjust some stuff. Okay, that's the first thing. which was missing, the curves, so the outline of the typography. And the second thing is we need the wall. I will add a plane, RX90, scale it by 10. Maybe I apply the scale and make it a little bit smaller, so something like S.75, something like this. And I will bring it closer to the main artwork, so something like this. These pipes, they don't need to be that long. The second thing I'd like to do is joining the loose parts of each letter. So these are two parts. I can simply select these. So select this one, shift select the second one, Control J, go to face mode, select everything and unwrap it, pressing U, unwrap, Smart UV project, unwrap, OK. And we will do it with every letter and Shift S to geometry. So we bring the origin of each letter to the center. And of course apply the rotation, Ctrl A, rotation. And we will do it with each letter. So select these two, Ctrl J for join, Ctrl A, rotation, apply the rotation, go to face mode, select everything, press U, Smart UV project and name it. And here you can see what we are doing. And I did the rest of the racket. Okay, now all these letters are ready for some cool rusty metal style of materials, which we will get from Blender Kit. So that's an add-on you can download and it's a free one. These guys, the dancing characters, they will get an emission shader, just like the outline of the typography. I already have applied an emission shader. It's a basic white emission shader, but we will do it together. And here, this will be a metal, a very simple metal, but we will duplicate it, drag it along the y-axis, something like this. So it is very close to the first one. The duplicate will also get an emission shader. Now we have all our parts together and they are ready for being colored, being textured. Let's drag out a separate window for the shader editor. And before starting with the objects, I will first like to adjust the environment. So therefore I will go to World here in the shader editor. And here I have this sky texture applied, but I want to change it. I want to have here a color attribute and I don't need this color attribute. I can delete it. So that's the default. I will make it completely black. I want to create the light situation from scratch. So if we go to the render preview, we have something like this. I will create a spotlight. So Shift A, go to light, spot. Let's leave this one for now. And I want also to create a camera. 1920 to 1920. You can give it whatever value you like. And here in the view, I would like to use camera to view. And I have a shortcut for that applied. Control F1, I guess. Yeah. If I activate this camera to view, now you can see that a red line is activated, a dotted line. That means that this camera to view is activated and now I can play around with the position of the scene from the view of the camera. So we can make something like this. The whole camera view should be covered by the wall. Okay, next thing is giving these guys some materials. And like I said, I want to give emission materials to the dancing characters. So let's do that. New, and the principled BSDF I changed to emission. And now it starts to shine right away. Let's make it a little bit more yellow style. And it can shine quite a bit. So I make something like 3 maybe. Take the lady and then the guy. Control L, link, materials. And I will do the same with the stairs. The duplicate of the stairs. So select the duplicate, shift select one of these emission guys. Control L, link materials. And of course the outline of the typography. Now our artwork starts to shine. Now let's take the stairs, the original ones, and give it a simple metal shader, nothing fancy. You can always go back and play around with it, but for the sake of this tutorial, I will keep things simple. Base color, metallic, bump it up to 1. Roughness to 0.3 so it is shiny, and I will give the same material to the pipes here in the back. So select the pipe, then the stairs, Ctrl L, link material. Now for the wall, I have downloaded a texture from Polyheaven. Here this Castle Brick 7. So let's apply that one to the plane. I go in the shader editor to Object, New. Make sure that you have enabled the Node Wrangler. That's a built-in add-on. So select the principled BSDF, Ctrl-Shift-T. Go to where you have saved your material and select all of them, pressing A. Principal texture setup. Blender will take care of everything else. In order to give this one some depth, we can subdivide it. So Ctrl-2, subdivide, go to the modifiers, simple, and then go to face mode, subdivide a couple of times. And here at the settings of this, go to displacement only, and now the magic starts to happen. And of course, you can always play with the strength of the normal map and the scale of the displacement map. I will leave it for now because I want to continue with the letters, which we have unwrapped, but I haven't named all the letters yet. But that's not that important. For now, let's go and look for a texture here in the Blender kit. So type in rust metal, then open this eye thing so you can see the results of your search. And I came up with a texture called oxidized or something like that. Yeah, it was this one, rusted oxidized metal. So if you press on it, it will download. But now I can't see what I'm doing. So therefore I have to change the light. I will also give it a yellowish color. So the whole scene has a warm look. And you can play around with the position of the spotlight. Something like this, and here you can see what we are getting. So let's select this guy. And the original one, if you download it from Blender Kit, it is white. It's something like this. If you like this look, you can go for it, or you can take completely another shader. But I went with this one, with this rusted oxidized, and I played with this value. So I changed it to something like this, a brown type of look. So this one, and I applied this material to all the other letters and select the last one which already has the material applied. Ctrl L, link materials. Now we can simply play around with the light situation. So therefore I will open another window like so. Here I go to render view, and here in the camera settings I bump up the passepartout to 1, so everything else is black and I can concentrate on the look of the actual artwork while editing on another window. Now I can play comfortably with the light situation. I will duplicate this guy. Now I will simply play around until I'm happy. Okay, after playing around with the scene quite a bit, you see I have tons of lights. I even have here a plane with an emission shader emitting blue light. So that's why this situation here is bluish. I have rendered it, and in Photoshop the only thing I did is applying a camera raw filter, and I have this result, and I don't want to play around any further because I think that looks okay. And the camera raw filter I applied is a template here, a preset called FD07. So that's it. Here you can compare before and after. That's the original masterpiece, and I hope that nobody is offended that I turned this one into such a 3D art. It's just for inspiration purposes. I hope you liked it, and see you in the next lettering tutorial. So peace!